Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Break into College. I'm your host, Lavetta Jenkins, the Outreach and Wellness Coordinator for Barrier Breakers. And today I've got wonderful guests on the show with me. They are from the safest college town in America. No, I'm not making it up. They were actually voted the safest college town in America. I have representatives from Roger Williams University, Jeremy Spencer, who is the Senior Director of Admissions, Communication, and Recruitment, and also Nisa Pimentel, who is the Assistant Director of Admissions, Diversity, and Access. You're going to want to make sure you stay tuned because we're talking everything from marine life to architecture to good food and pets. Join us for another episode of Break into College. Welcome, Nisa and Jeremy. So good to have you on with us today.
Nice to be with you.
Glad to be here.
So I'm going to start with ladies first. Nisa, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Roger Williams.
Super excited to be here with you, Lavetta. And one of the things that I do as the Associate Director of Admissions, Diversity, and Access at Roger Williams is really just working with our prospective students to let them know more about our ILA program, which is our Intercultural Leadership Ambassador Scholarship, as well as a mentorship program that allows for students to really have that hands-on support when they're coming in their first year, and then transitioning them off into our intercultural center where they will get more support systems there with the school. And then it's really just about combining and connecting the community through our community partnerships, such as community-based organizations, and just doing outreach with them and those students to allow them to know more about the programs that happen at Roger Williams. So in a nutshell, that's some of the things that I do.
Jeremy, tell us all a little bit about who you are and exactly what your role is at Roger Williams.
Just like you said, just so excited to be with you, to be able to share all the great opportunities that are available to students at Roger Williams University. So my role is a Senior Director of Admission, primarily responsible for recruitment and communication. So I support the office for the traveling territory managers with their recruitment efforts, ensuring that they have the necessary supports when they go out and cover college fairs and high schools, et cetera. I assist an associate director who coordinates the application review process, so working handily with her to be able to make sure the staff have the resources to be able to facilitate the application review. We offer a number of different application processes, which I'm happy to speak later about, but it's very dynamic because we want to meet students where they are to be able to help get them through the process. So I would say that we're very engaging in this capacity, and we're really, I think, a trendsetter, which is really exciting. And then communication. So everything from the brochures that our territory managers travel with to the items that are on the website to the emails that we send out, that's also part of my portfolio. So my role at Roger Williams is primarily to support the staff in everything that they do. I report to the dean, and then the dean reports to the VP. So as one of the senior leaders, it's just making sure that the dean's vision, the VP's vision is carried out, and I'm here to help the staff do that.
I am so excited about this conversation, mainly because your university has, classes that I have always thought about when I was younger, but never really got to dig into because I grew up in Ohio and there is a very much marine life around there. And you've got a very big marine program. So, Jeremy, I'm going to ask you first. Tell me about the majors and the minors that Roger Williams University has.
Sure. One of the exciting things that brought me to Roger Williams, and I've been here just a little over a year, is that I have 30 years of higher education experience, all in higher ed, from small liberal arts colleges to larger public universities to regional publics. So across the board, I've had experience through my career representing different types of institutions. And I can say by far, Roger Williams, of all the schools that I have worked for, when you take a look at our student to faculty ratio, which is 14 to 1, the average class size, which is 16, and with 3,500 undergraduate students, it is an environment where the professors will get to know the students will be able to be engaged in their curricular and co-curricular and academic life to where it really is that vibrant campus community where students really are actively engaged in their experience, while also having access to academics that are commonly found when you listen to our diversity of majors at very large institutions, which are siloed in approach where you're either in the School of Engineering, you're in the School of Business, you're in the School of, say, Liberal Arts and Sciences, and there's not a lot of cross collaboration. And we're really purposeful through our powerful combinations, which we can talk about later, which is a trademark term for Roger Williams, and how we really facilitate students to curate their undergraduate experience and tap into all of the different academics that we have. So we have an architecture program both at the undergraduate and graduate level that can allow students to become licensed architects. We have a very vibrant engineering facility, ABET accredited, which has your traditional engineering programs as specialties, which gives students the opportunities to really mix and match different engineering focuses that they have an interest in, and construction management and cybersecurity. We have a fully accredited AACSB business program, which has all of the traditional business majors, in addition to a 3+1 and a 4+1 MBA program that students can do. We have the School of Social and Natural Sciences, which have all of the traditional social sciences and lab-based sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, biochemistry, math, data science, psychology, sociology, etc. We have a dynamic School of Justice, a School of Justice Studies, and the School of Justice Studies has the criminology, the forensic science, and our dynamic legal studies major, which when tied in with another major allows students to do the 3+3. We're the only law school in Rhode Island, so they can do that. And then we have the traditional, liberal arts. So students can come in and they can do English, they could do history, they could become an educator, whether elementary or secondary, they could do dance. So the dynamic array of academic majors that we have is available for all of our students. And the only major that does require something additional for entry is our architecture program, which is a portfolio. I can speak to that later. But outside of that, all of the minors, students have access to be able to tie into the other academic programs so they really can get the most out of their undergraduate experience.
That is amazing. And I just think that it's cool that it doesn't just have like, okay, we have these. You literally have something for everyone with a smaller class size, better student to teacher ratio than I think I've heard in a very long time. And I know that has got to be beneficial for students as well as for the parents who send their children to school, especially if they're first generation. And I know, Nisa, you do a lot of work with the first generation students and programs. Tell us specifically about what you're doing.
Of course. So what I'm really excited about is that Roger Williams is the second highest population for first gen students, right? So we talk about that in our first generation student panel, which many students are able to come out to as they are deciding on their options. And so we have students who are in their first year to their senior year really talk about the supports that they get while they're at Roger, as well as just ways to navigate Roger, whether it's through support of faculty and support of other students. One of the ways that students are able to do that is through our first gen program, which is the ILA program, which stands for the Intercultural Leadership Ambassador Scholarship Program. And not only is it a financial aid support, but it's truly an academic support where students are getting 95% of their tuition covered all 4 years. And so what's so beautiful about that is that students are not doing an additional application. The moment they apply to Roger Williams, they are automatically considered, right? So one of the other things that we look at for that program and scholarship specifically is that if they have a 2.8 GPA at the minimum, on the whole, just like Jeremy mentioned, we are a 3.5 range for those students. However, for that program, the 2.8 will suffice, but anything higher, of course, is beautiful. And then we are a Pell eligible when it comes to that scholarship specifically. So once students fill out their FAFSA and they find that out, once they're done with it, from there, that is also part of the consideration. So that is just one first gen program. And again, it can be for first gen students and it's geared for first gen students, but again, it's considered for all. Just that idea of access for those students and families to really find that out.
I love that there are programs specifically for first gen, especially because you have a lot of first generation students going there. And I think one of the things that I liked as a parent was the fact that your college is the safest college town in America. That's very hard to come by.
For sure.
How does that come across? How have you noticed that kind of bearing any weight on any parents who were apprehensive about sending their child away? Is that something that's really a good sell for other parents? I know it would be for myself.
Oh, for sure. I think for parents, you kind of see the relief on their face, like, oh,
Mhm,
okay, wow. And just knowing
mhm,
that our town in Bristol is such a small town, however, it's really vibrant in the ways that students are able to find whatever it is they're looking for, right? Small restaurants, right? Family owned restaurants, as well as just different things to do on campus and off campus. And because
mhm.
our campus is just lively with the 70 plus clubs, organizations, you can find so many of those clubs just parked outside in the common dining hall and saying, hey, we're actually having this dance event or we're having this fashion show, right? So you're never bored. And so that allows for not just students to feel, like they have a community while they're there, but that
Mhm.
leads to the safety of it, right? Where you are finding community with the students who are there on campus. And many times when they're traveling out on campus, they're going there with that same.
I love that. I love the sense of community that even in past conversations that we've had, we've always doubled back and ended up with the sense of community that's created not just by the students themselves, but the community outside of the college seems to be very supportive of the students that are on campus, and they seem to be very supportive of the college as a whole and maintaining that good best college town in America. It seems like the entire community is working together to keep that image and to keep that good reputation amongst the rest of America. And I think that is probably one of the best selling points outside of the ILA that you have or the work that you do with the first generation. All of that coupled together makes for a very good experience. Now I know that there's that the GPA, but Jeremy did say that there was a little bit more math strength that you needed for certain certain majors. I want you to talk a little bit more about that. I believe it was the architecture program.
Sure. So, we're looking for success in our students, and we're
Mhm,
actually actively looking to admit. We're an office of admission, not an office of deny. So we
mhm,
are building relationships with students and trying to help them on their pathway. There are some programs like architecture, like the sciences, engineering, marine bio, some of the business programs that do have math proficiency that is required for success in this program because they're quantitatively focused. So when the admissions committee meets, we're looking at not only the overall courses that students took in high school, but in some programs we're taking more of a look at the math and or the sciences to be able to help understand here is the comprehensive GPA, but let's take a look at the GPA in some of these programs. And what that might lead to is that if the student doesn't meet the benchmark that we're looking for, then the student very well may be admitted to Roger Williams University, but they're going to be admitted in an undeclared track within that respective school that therefore allow the advising to take into effect that this student has been admitted to Roger Williams, has an interest in this said program, but is going to be advised as an undeclared within that respective program so they can make sure that they have the requisite math and or base sciences before they just go into the full cadre of major courses. So it really sets the students up for success and sets everyone up to have good conversations at the front, that the student doesn't go right into a curriculum that has the assumption that they have a certain proficiency in certain subjects of which they don't have or they haven't demonstrated by the admissions process. And through that active advising is where they actually get help.
mhm.
So that's what we're really excited about. I mean, our admit rate, and we're not ashamed to say, is right around 90%. We're really excited to say that to students. And in certain programs, we're going to be looking at other elements of your background, math and or science, to make sure that you are prepared for success in that area. And then the architecture program, in addition to having a strong quantitative component, does have a creative component that does require portfolio similar to a professional art school. And our website has all the information specifically on that, but it does demonstrate that within the architecture program, it does require a degree of creativity that must be demonstrated through the portfolio process for, again, for the student to be successful, because there's a lot of hands-on creativity similar to an art school.
Mhm.
And it's so cool to be over in the engineering building and see all these models that the students are
Yeah.
building. It's really cool to be a part of.
Oh, you know what? You were throwing out some good numbers about that 90% exception rate. Nisa, since we're down in the numbers, I want you to tell everyone, because I was floored when I found out. Tell us about the retention rate and how many people stay after their first year, because I know that those are very, very impressive as well.
For sure. So when it comes to retention rates, we're really at higher than the national average, so at
Great.
67%. And then when it comes to students living on campus, 80% of our students that live with us in their freshman year stay with us the whole 4 years. And so that's also beautiful as well, just because it means that students are finding their community and they're staying
Mhm.
there, right? It's the driving factor for what makes them want to stay at the
I think
And
that
one
that's amazing. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was saying, and to time what Nisa was sharing about, because she shared the 67%, which is our graduation rate. The
Mhm.
81% is the first to second year retention rate, in addition to the 80% retention rate that was mentioned for those residential students, of which 95% of our entering students are residential. Overall,
Mhm.
65%, because we have a first and second year resident requirement. And we certainly can
Mhm.
talk more about the community of which we build, because we have some really cool living learning communities. But by the time they become a junior or senior, the third and fourth year, students have the option, if they choose, to live off campus. And so that's why it goes from 95% down to 65%, is students choose
Mhm.
to live off, but we do have the opportunity of allowing students to live on campus. And this is what families really love this, is that about half of our residence halls have a water view. I mentioned earlier about some of the academic programs. I failed to specifically say marine biology because we literally are on the coast. You can't get
Mm.
any closer to the water. And when I say that, you could walk down to our sailing center and you can go down and put your feet in the water. It's right there. We have a learning platform which runs close to 200 feet out into the Mount Hope Bay. We actually, from that learning platform, that's where a sailing team will practice from without having to leave the campus. They don't have to get on a bus and sail. That's where our marine biology students, anybody interested in marine biology, can hop on our marine vessel called the Invincible Spirit. And right from our dock, they can go and do marine research in the Mount Hope Bay. And you're just there with the seagulls and the saltwater smell. It's a beautiful campus to be a part of. So I'm really excited about that. And then lastly, is our marine science facility is actually considered a marine science station, because we pump in water from the Mount Hope Bay. So we're actively working with salt water. We have a
Mm.
shellfish hatchery program, an oyster farm. One of the cool things, when I was getting oriented during my new staff and orientation, I was actually next to an oyster farmer because he was actually there as a shellfish program. So our wet lab is over 3,000 square feet. We have an aquaculture and aquarium science program. So if you like marine biology, you have it right there at your fingertips and right to campus without having to leave.
Okay, and the fact that you just kind of breezed by, the little sailing kind of thing, that caught me off guard. Now, I know that because you are located right there on the coast, that you have the unique advantage because of location. But for some reason, I don't know why it didn't dawn on me that, of course, you would have a sailing and rowing and all that going on. I just thought, okay, well, they're studying what's going on in the ocean. But there's competition and competitive sports there as well, with the team, or is it just like
Yeah, so we
as
have a
a
nationally ranked sailing team. We
oh,
also
okay.
have an equestrian team for those that have engaged in horse, Western, and English. And then we also have NCAA Division III varsity sports. So NCAA Division III varsity sports in sailing and equestrian, and then a number of uh, um, uh, and single sport club teams, and then also intramural teams. So everything from
Hmm.
esports to your traditional sports to intramurals, we have it all for students to participate.
I think RWU has been hiding over there and not really telling everything. I did not know. Now, I knew you were known for marine biology. I had no idea that we were sailing and that you can also get that experience while you learn about shellfish and probably why some people are allergic to shellfish and all that kind of stuff. Never knew that all of that was available right there. I'm just thinking about the academics of it, but there's more. to kind of immerse yourself in on just the campus alone.
And you
Man.
can learn how to sail. So through the sailing team, all of our undergraduate students, faculty, staff, anybody who's an RW community member can learn how to sail. So think about that. If you're not coming from a coastal experience, you can come and actually get the ultimate coastal experience by learning how to sail while you're in college.
And honestly, that's a very good benefit because even if you're, landlocked like myself, you would still benefit from knowing how because you're not always going to be in that position, hopefully, from start to finish. Or if you're ever kind of thrown in a situation, it's good to have some type of knowledge to be able to handle the basics, at minimum, the basics. Now, I know it's the safest college town in America. You've got one of the best communities, but you mentioned like a learning community. Tell us a little bit more about that, Nisa, and then I'm going to have Jeremy expound on that.
For sure. So with our learning community, it's really about that engaged learning opportunity that students are able to take part in. And that comes across in really just cross references with our combination. And so one of the ways that happens with students is, for example, in our graphic design major, many students are working at a global studio in Japan where they're not only getting to do their study abroad opportunities, but they have done things like redesign McDonald's in Japan. We actually had a student who is in our admissions office who currently works there. He previously went to Japan and he got to design gift cards, but in Japanese. And so when we talk about that engaged learning, it's not just they are making the RW community on campus the best possible can be and learning from the students that they're in class with and professors on campus, but it's really about going that extra mile and getting that Roger Williams experience abroad.
And for the
Jeremy.
students who live on campus, 95% of our first year students live on campus. And there's a lot of different residence life opportunities. But within the residence life opportunities, what we also have are these living learning communities in which students will self-select themselves into. An example is the honors program, students that are selected into the honors program, which does require a separate application and 2 additional optional essays. And it has a second review process outside of admissions as far as getting selected for that program. But within that, they will live with other honors programs that first year. So that living learning community, they're all living together, having that kind of experience. And there's other affinity-based housing. One is actually a very popular pet-friendly housing. These are non-service animals, but you can bring your pet from home. So when traditionally you're not allowed to bring, the family dog or the family cat, but you can if you want. It's through our pet-friendly housing experience. Our president is a dog lover. He actually has Roger the dog, who is a beautiful dog that makes his way around campus. But we actually have a dog park on campus overlooking the water that you can take your pets to. So, to what Nisa said earlier, the fact that our students are living on campus, they're engaged in this community, they then can, above and beyond the clubs, the organizations, the academics, decide within their residence life opportunity what is it that they want to do, which is aligned with their interests.
Mhm. I like that. Being able to bring not necessarily your service animal, but a cat you've had since it was a kitten and your mom doesn't want to take care of the cat because it's your cat. Being able to take your cat to college with you really does also not just provide, that okay, well now I can bring my cat with me, but it also gives a little bit of emotional support. And I think that that actually adds to the well-rounded experience that students would get at Roger Williams that, maybe they wouldn't get, at a college closer to home because they couldn't take their pet with them. Having just that little piece of home with you makes it not seem so bad, especially if it's your first time, your first gen and you're away from your mom or anything like that. But I also know, Nisa, you're heavily involved with the Center for Student and Academic Support. In what ways do you feel like the students really enjoy that support or that center the most?
So I think one of the benefits for students on campus is the fact that they receive a peer mentor. And that peer mentor is just substantial in the way that prospective students and incoming students get to meet that peer mentor at their orientation, right? And so that person, whether it's a junior or senior in that year for them, they're really just kind of giving them tips and tricks and showing them the ropes and really just giving them I'm going to say free game, honestly,
Hmm.
because you get to
Hmm.
really learn the ways in terms of from someone who has done it 2 years prior, right? And along with that, they receive an academic advisor. And so that advisor, where we're seeing so many of our students who are undecided or undeclared, right? They don't know what they want to do. And that is perfectly okay at Rogers. They're able to also get an academic advisor who really helps guide them through their courses, right? What courses they're going to take. They actually cannot sign up for classes without that advisor. So it really just becomes this super relationship. And so in that manner, students are definitely able to receive so much support from that center.
Hmm. I also know that Roger Williams University is very friendly when it comes to all different types of diverse backgrounds and perspectives. Jeremy, can you tell me how receptive they are to people who may, have different backgrounds?
Sure. So, what's nice about being at Roger Williams is we truly are a welcoming community from all backgrounds. And what we encourage entering students through this powerful combinations concept, which is not only academic, but is where they are and where they want to go, is we want to meet you where you are and generally have you bring yourself to our community, authentically you, and then ask you, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And be an active participant with you through your undergraduate experience. And then when you graduate, you'll have the experience that has been curated by you, obviously influenced by everyone that's around you, because that's what we're there to do as influencers and mentors to be able to help. But it is possible, even though somebody has the same major, to have a very dynamic, different experience with that person
Mhm.
coming in. It just comes to life. We just had a student featured who came in undeclared, had a great experience with a faculty member in finance, just fell in love with finance. Next thing you know, she picked up finance because she liked that as a major, math as a minor. Next thing you know, she's joined our Center for Advanced Financial Education, which is basically our cafe program. She really loves that. Was started off as an analyst, then became a project manager. That landed her an internship at Goldman Sachs, and now that's going to be where she's going to be employed after she graduates. All from an interaction with a faculty member who took an interest in her, and she had an interest in the subject, and then that led into a tremendous experience. And oh, by the way, she's captain of the field hockey team and has the most goals in history on our team. But it's like one of those dynamics where that's the kind of engaged student that will be successful because they really are open, undeclared coming in. Some students are really, hyper focused, but it's really open to you might change your major, you might change your mind. A particular class might get you thinking differently. And we're asking consistently the questions of, well, what does this mean to you? Like, what do you want to make of this? And then how do you tie this into your extracurricular? How do you tie this into your co-curricular? How do you tie this into a job that you might be doing? Like, what are you going to do while you're here to make this so when you graduate, you know you've gotten the most out of it? And we have so many of these different success stories because back to that powerful combinations in the way that all our academic deans are talking to each other, the way that our Gen Ed model, which I'm really excited to talk about, our Gen Ed is based on a domain model, really 6 different domains. Within those domains, sometimes there's upwards of 50 classes you can take within the domains, but it's specifically targeted for students to have real world experiences with real world outcomes within that dynamic gen ed model, which lays the foundation for the liberal arts, but also has over 50 embedded minors in it. So when families are saying, you just got to take the gen eds, get those out of the way before you get to your major, we're like, no, you actually have an embedded minor based on the courses that you decide to select within this gen ed. So not only are you actively thinking about what it is you want to minor in while you're completing the gen ed, then that could be totally something separate or in line with what you want to major in. So even our gen ed model sets the foundation for curation and really getting students to think about making the experience unique to them.
I think that all of this, I believe we had in a previous conversation where you said that, you want them to model what they want from day one. That's exactly what this is. Just kind of asking them in the beginning, what do you want to do? What do you see yourself as? And then making sure they get there, giving them the experiences they want that they would need to get there. But also, should they, take a little side quest and decide, you know what, maybe this is really good. Exposing them to that as well, just because you never really know where your calling is if you don't take a look at other things, try something else, just sit in on something, just take a look at it, see what the clubs are doing, see what the
Mhm.
lectures are looking like, because you never know that you've got a knack for finance if you don't try your hand at finance. You
Right.
never know if you got a knack for marine biology if you never go down there. I'm still hung up on the docks. If you don't go down there to check out and see what's going on, down where the Marines study, you never know. So I think that that's one of the best things about Roger Williams is that you do get these experiences, and it's not going to break your bank to get it. Because Nisa said that you have peer mentors, but I also think I heard something about free tutors. Is that correct, Nisa?
That is correct. So our peer mentors are one of the things that students are able to get out of the Roger Williams experience, but it's really our free tutors. And that looks
Mhm.
like a student who is very well versed in math, science, biology, the works, right? And they're
Wow.
able to really be in that class with that student, see the same material and say, hey, this is how we're going to build out a study guide, right? Or maybe you need some additional help and assistance with public speaking. Let's work on that. And so students are able to do drop-in hours at our tutoring center. And then from there, if they need that one-on-one support, they're also able to really reach out to that student and get support that way. It's pretty easy. And then support doesn't just stop there, where students who need accommodations to our accessibility center are able to really just get that support where their professors will know about those accommodations that they need, whether they need additional timing on their exams or they need more time on their papers that were their essays that they're
Mhm.
writing. They're able to get the support that way. Pretty good.
Hmm. I do find that, even at any stage of college, sometimes you just need a little bit of extra support. And I'm glad to know that Roger Williams is offering that support for their students. Now, Jeremy, is there anything else that you would like to make sure the public knew about the admissions process and where to start if they're even
Sure.
thinking about considering Roger Williams?
Well, the most important thing is obviously, visit our website. You can get a lot of information there, but then build relationships with our admission counselors. I mean, the traditional pathway, students will complete the common application, which a lot of universities across the country accept. We are on the common
Mhm.
application, provides an access point for students. It makes it opportunity for them to use one application and to select a number of different schools to apply to. Within that framework, we're asking for the common application, and then they fill out some additional information on behalf of Roger Williams. They can specifically tell us what major they want. There's a writing prompt if they want to write an essay above and beyond the Common App essay, they can submit that. That's what if they want to be part of the honors program, they select and they do 2 additional optional essays if they want. It just lets us get a little bit more information about them. Then we get
Mhm.
an official transcript along with their letter of recommendation, and then that's how we render our decision. But in addition to that, we've partnered with niche.com. So Niche is one of the largest college search platforms across the country. It's where a lot of students do their college selection process. When students build a profile on Niche, we actually have worked with Niche that based on the student's self-reported profile, if it's a good match with Roger Williams, we'll offer them conditional admission, which means that we say based on your profile, you're a great match with us. You're conditionally admitted. Congratulations. Just complete an onboarding form. It accelerates the process. They submit their unofficial transcripts. They upload it. If they want to write a recommendation, if they want to write an essay or provide a recommendation, they certainly can do so. And that's an expedited process through niche.com. Also, we have our own direct admission program that we offer. Like, for instance, the students who just attended our open house this past Sunday, we offered
Mhm.
the attendees who were seniors direct admission where they brought a transcript with them, expedited application. We went through the transcript with the student there, and we're able to offer admission. And to the naysayers who say, well, what about the recommendation? What about the essay? If students want to bring that, they're more than welcome to. It's a holistic read, which means that you bring what you want or you don't bring what you want. We want to meet you where you are. The best predictor of success in college is the courses taken in high school and the grade point average. That's why we look at that. And then those
Mhm.
letter recommendations and essays, if students want to submit those, we happily will receive them because they tell us a story. And the same thing is true with the standardized test scores. We've been test optional for over a decade. However, if students do want to submit their SAT or ACT scores, they're more than welcome to do so because it tells a story. but we don't take the SAT or ACTs into consideration with merit scholarships. So
Mm.
all students that are admitted to all students that are admitted to Roger Williams University will receive a merit scholarship, and that's guaranteed whether they go through the common application, the niche direct admission, or the RW direct admission. So it's
Oh,
all
that
about
is
meeting
so
students where they are, helping them navigate this overwhelming process. The direct admission really helps where cultural capital might be lacking. I don't really understand as a family what this Common App is. I don't have a really close relationship with my high school counselor. I don't know what questions to
Mhm.
ask. The direct admission eliminates all of that through the streamlined process to really get students to an answer of yes. And some students, that answer of yes then makes college seem like it's a possibility. Because until they get their first yes, it doesn't seem like it might be possible, especially, with the students that might be first gen or doesn't have a lot of experience with it. But once they get their first yes, then they know it's within their wheelhouse. And that might get them looking at other colleges. So even if they get accepted to Roger Williams through direct admission, and that opens up pathways to other schools eventually to where they enroll, all the power to them. Because our goal is to help students get to higher education, because we all believe that higher education, transforms lives. The transformative power of higher education is alive and well, and we're just ambassadors of that, whether it be Roger Williams or elsewhere.
I love that. I love that, bring your paperwork with you, come check it out, and we'll kind of fast track you. That's amazing, especially for a first generation student who has no idea, no support, like you said, no good relationship with a counselor. Of course, your parents don't know, or sometimes they don't have parents. They may have a grandparent or something like that
Mm-hmm.
that's their guardian. That is absolutely amazing for someone who doesn't have the support at home and doesn't know how to apply. All you have to do is get there with your paperwork in hand. Now, Nisa, is there anything else that you want to make sure that the public knows about Roger Williams from your perspective?
For sure. I feel like the theme of today for me has been support, 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 right? And all of
Mhm.
these engaged learning opportunities that students are able to do at Roger Williams. And one of them is the SOAR program. And so the SOAR program stands for Thrive, Overcome, Achieve, and Rise. And really, it's not so much a financial aspect and support for students, but it's really more that academic and mentoring support, where students who are specifically first gen, whether that means they are a single parent first gen, maybe a parent that has an associate that doesn't have a bachelor's, right? Whatever that looks like for that student, they are coming in with that support and able to be looked at and considered for it. And it's really just a matter of having an academic advisor with that program. And that advisor is really giving them that push to say, hey, every time you go to an advisee meeting, every time you go to a club organization meeting, it equals out to a point, and that point system then adds up to a credit that they can take away from their tuition on their spring semester once they're done with it. And so not only is it an academic support, but it's really just that additional earning system for them to really get an incentive to get involved, right?
Mhm.
And so that's definitely something I want students to know about, especially if you are navigating the college process. And I feel like Jeremy worded that so beautifully, right? Where we are accessible as admission counselors to just be able to, if you need to text us, email us, call us in any way, shape, or form to allow you to just get some more support during that application process and during your college search journey. That's what we're here for, and we're excited every time this time of year comes around, as well as every cycle of the education cycle for Rockaway.
I'm excited about receiving support and I'm not even attending. I just love the fact that, Roger Williams is so there for everyone and making sure that they have a successful college experience, not just one where you go, you sit down, you learn, but that they come away from the 4 years there feeling better about themselves and, more sure of their place in the world and being supported the entire way. I also want to say that I heard that the students love the food, and that's also another good thing because it's one thing to have to eat on campus, but it's another thing to actually like the food that you eat on campus. So that's got to be a draw for the students as well.
Oh,
Yeah, we're consistently ranked, yeah, number one or number two best food in Rhode Island. Great dining
Wow.
facility. We just did the renovations this past summer to where students can actually be more engaged in the dining experience by cooking their own food. I mentioned earlier that our president is a dog lover, but he's also a foodie. So he loves good food, and so therefore we have really, really good food on campus. So we're excited to be able to offer that. And then also, not only did we recently renovate the dining commons, but in the coming years, we're going to build a new campus center, which is going to be right in the middle of campus. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be an opportunity for our students to have a center, a true center for engagement. It's going to be right in the hub of our campus, right in the middle. And anybody who enrolls coming in this upcoming year will definitely see the campus center during their undergraduate experience. So we're really excited about that. Breaking ground soon.
Wow. 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 That's an amazing experience. Roger Williams definitely has some things that you've been hiding. But I feel like now the world needs to know, and especially the first generation students who are having some hard times kind of navigating. This is an amazing experience for them. Do either one of you have any closing remarks or anything before I let you go? This has been wonderful for me.
Yeah, I would just say that, I mentioned earlier, I think it's rare to find a university that is
Mhm.
3,500, that has a diversity of academic majors, accessible faculty, accessible programs, et cetera. But what's also unique is that not only do we have that, but we have a graduate program. We have graduate programs, accelerated, that students can take. I mentioned earlier the architecture, which we have a 4+1.5 to accelerate that. It's usually, it could be a 4+2. We've got the 3+1 or the 4+1 MBA. There's a number of other graduate programs that we offer. We have the only law school in Rhode Island, so that's right on Bristol's their main campus, but they're also up in Providence. And the reason why I say Providence is we do have a campus in Providence, which is our state capital. We've been talking about Bristol this entire time because it's the coastal community. It's where the traditional undergraduates live, but we do have a campus right in the heart of Providence, which is our state capital. It's not only home to the second and third year law students and to a number of our graduate programs, but also to our extension school, which is very much akin to a community college. So we're a private university, but we have programs in the trades. We have online programs, hybrid programs. We just started a doula program. We have a plumbing program, electrical apprenticeship program. We have got your traditional programs that lead to associate degrees and then bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. We have a very aggressive, should I say, generous prior learning credit, which is basically allowing students with an associate degree to earn up to 45 credits or a bachelor's degree up to 90 credits for prior life and work experience. So we have that also. Traditional undergraduate students are usually thinking just Bristol, but when you go to a university that has a dynamicism of both that kind of experience, but also the graduate and the law, which is a professional program, and the extension school, it's just a really cool university to be a part of. Those are my closing thoughts. I just love working here.
All right, Nisa, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right there with Jeremy. I think one of the beautiful things about Roger Williams, especially with our extension school, is that it's thinking about the learner no matter where they are on their academic journey. And so what's also nice about that, their little tidbit, I actually got accepted into our ESL certification program when I was teaching, because they have a partnership with Providence Schools to allow those teachers to get that ESL cert. And so it's really just a matter of, if you're thinking about Roger Williams, the one thing I always say is all you got to do is be open-minded. That's the one student we're looking for, an open-minded student. So if that's you, that's all you need.
Yeah, come on over. Look, I thank you both so much for being our guest today. We greatly appreciate it. And hopefully, I'll meet you up again and you will have had tons of more students who came in from this podcast just by hearing about the great things at Roger Williams. Thank you both so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.